Rochelle dressed in the ugliest outfit she could find, clashing patterns, Crocs with socks, anything to ruin the blind date her mother forced on her. But when she arrived, the man sitting there looked even worse, ripped jeans, stained hoodie, and eating like he'd never seen a spoon before. Then they both realized the truth. They were sabotaging the same date, and that's when everything got complicated. Quick question before this story starts. Have you ever loved someone you knew you shouldn't? Someone complicated, maybe even dangerous? That's where Rochelle finds herself, and trust me, it only gets messier from here. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been there, because this one hits different. And if you're new here, subscribe so you never miss a story. This channel is where people who've actually lived through something come to feel seen. Also, drop your location in the comments. We have viewers watching from all over the world, and we want to know exactly where you're joining us from tonight. Rochelle Baptiste stared at the text from her mother with the kind of dread usually reserved for tax audits or dental appointments. Mrs. Kim from church says her nephew is perfect for you. I already said yes. Saturday at 7. Busan address below. Don't embarrass me. No question mark. No room for negotiation. Just the implicit threat that had governed Rochelle's entire childhood, wrapped in a dozen words. She'd fled New Orleans 3 years ago to restore antique books in a Busan museum, putting an ocean between herself and her mother's expectations. Still, distance meant nothing when maternal determination had international reach. The worst part wasn't even the ambush setup. It was knowing she'd go. She'd show up because saying no meant phone calls, guilt trips, and the special brand of disappointment her mother wielded like a weapon. But nobody said she had to make it pleasant. Would you have just refused your mother outright? Or would you have done what Rochelle's about to do? Let me know below. Saturday arrived with rain that matched her mood. Rochelle stood in front of her bathroom mirror, assembling an outfit that would ensure this date died quickly. A vintage orange sweater with geometric brown shapes that looked like deranged Tetris blocks, paired with purple corduroy pants she'd found at a second-hand shop. Green Crocs with yellow socks. Her natural hair, usually styled in a neat, burgundy-tinted TWA. She picked out into an intentionally uneven halo, thick-framed glasses from her undergraduate years that made her eyes look magnified. She looked like a color wheel had exploded on a librarian. Perfect, she muttered, grabbing a fanny pack covered in cartoon cats. If this man had any sense, he'd take one look and invent a family emergency. The restaurant was in Gwangali, a modest gamjatang place squeezed between a convenience store and a nori bang. Not fancy, which surprised her. Maybe he wasn't trying to impress either. Good. This would be over in 40 minutes. She'd report back to her mother that it didn't work out, and she could return to her peaceful Saturday nights with damaged book spines and silence. She arrived exactly 3 minutes late. Strategic timing. Not rude enough to complain about, but enough to show she hadn't been eager. The restaurant was warm, steamy, and smelling of pork bone broth and garlic. A few couples were scattered at tables, and an elderly man reading a newspaper at the bar. Then she saw him, and her carefully constructed plan wobbled. He sat in the back corner booth, and he looked worse than she did. A faded black hoodie with a stain near the collar, ripped jeans that seemed more accident than fashion, hair uncombed and falling across his eyes. He was tall. She could tell even with him sitting, with sharp features that might have been handsome if he didn't look like he'd lost a fight with exhaustion. A scar traced his jawline, pale against his skin. He was scrolling through his phone with the energy of someone waiting for a bus, not a date. Rochelle felt something unexpected. Relief, maybe. This wasn't going to be some peacocking rich guy trying to impress her. This was a mutual obligation. Two people serving time. She walked over. Kang Dae-hyun? He looked up, and for just a second something flickered in his eyes, too fast to name. "Rochelle." "That's me." She slid into the booth across from him, watching his gaze take in her outfit. His expression didn't change. Point in his favor, she supposed. "You want to order?" His English was good. Accent present, but not heavy. "Sure." They ordered in near silence, him in Korean to the server, her pointing at the menu since her Korean was still intermediate at best. When the server left, awkwardness settled between them like a third guest. Dae-hyun cleared his throat. "So, my aunt says you restore books." "I do." Rochelle leaned back, committed to being aggressively uninteresting. "It's very boring. Lots of glue and paper pH testing. Super tedious. Sometimes I smell like mildew for days." "Sounds terrible." "It really is. What do you do?" "Art acquisition. Also boring. Lots of paperwork and arguing about provenance." "Riveting." The soup arrived. Rochelle watched him pick up his spoon and, with what seemed like deliberate intent, slurp the broth so loudly the couple 2 tables over glanced their way. He met her eyes while doing it, expression blank. She nearly laughed. She caught it, but something warm flickered in her chest. Was he trying to be off-putting too? "Fine. Game on." Rochelle loaded her spoon with potatoes and spoke with her mouth full. "Do you come here often? The decor is really something." There was no decor. Bare walls and fluorescent lighting. "I love fluorescent lighting," Dae-hyun said seriously. "Really shows every flaw. I only eat under fluorescent lighting. A woman of principle." They stared at each other. Rochelle felt her mouth twitch. He remained impassive, but she caught it now, the tiny crinkle near his eyes. "Are you?" she started, then paused. "Are you also being set up against your will?" The corner of his mouth lifted, barely. "My aunt believes I need settling influences." Her words. "My mother thinks I'm wasting my prime years." Direct quote. "Are you deliberately dressed like that?" Rochelle grinned. "Are you deliberately eating like that?" Dae-hyun set down his spoon. Then he smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "I was planning to spill something on myself in about 10 minutes. I was going to start talking about my fungal toenail situation around dessert." "You don't have a fungal toenail situation. You don't know that. We just met." He laughed, a surprised sound that seemed to catch even him off guard. "This is the strangest date I've ever been on." "Same. Want to just eat like normal people and commiserate about overbearing relatives?" "That sounds good." The conversation shifted after that and became real. He asked about book restoration with actual curiosity, and she found herself explaining the intimacy of repairing something broken, how you had to understand how it was made to fix it properly. He listened like her words mattered, asked follow-up questions that showed he was thinking about her answers. When she asked about art acquisition, he talked about the detective work of tracing ownership, the stories objects carried. "Everything has history," he said. "Even when people try to hide it, the truth leaves marks." "Like your scar?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. His hand moved unconsciously to his jawline. "Car accident. Long time ago." She didn't believe him, but she didn't push. Everyone had their secrets. They talked until the restaurant staff started wiping down tables with pointed looks. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the street slick and shining with reflected neon. "I should go," Rochelle said, meaning it less than she expected. "Yeah." Dae-hyun stood with her, hands in his pockets. "This was not what I expected." "Bad?" "No, good. Surprisingly good." Something warm spread through her chest. Dangerous. This was supposed to be a disaster, a one-time obligation. But he was looking at her like she was interesting, like he wanted to keep talking, and she hadn't felt that in longer than she cared to admit. Maybe we could do this again, he said. Properly. No sabotage. She should say no. Clean break. Report to her mother that it didn't work. Return to safe solitude. But instead, she heard herself say, "Yeah, I'd like that." They exchanged numbers. His fingers brushed hers when he handed back her phone, barely a touch, but she felt it like static. "I'll text you," he said. "Okay." She walked to the subway station with a smile she couldn't quite kill, and the uncomfortable awareness that her plan had backfired spectacularly. He did text. The next morning, while she was cataloging a damaged 19th century journal, her phone buzzed. "Coffee? I promised to dress even worse." She bit her lip, trying not to grin at her workstation. Her colleague Yuna glanced over. "What's that face?" "Nothing." "That's a something face." Rochelle sighed. "I went on a setup date yesterday." And? And it didn't go how I planned." Yuna's eyes lit up with the specific joy of someone who loved romance in all its forms. "Tell me everything." "There's nothing to tell yet. Maybe nothing to tell at all." But she texted back, "Only if you wear those ripped jeans again," and felt like a teenager passing notes in class. They met for coffee. Then dinner. Then a walk along Gwangali Beach, where they didn't talk much, just existed in comfortable silence while the Gwangan Bridge lit up the night. Dae-hyun was different from anyone she'd dated. Quieter, more observant. He noticed things and remembered details. When she mentioned loving old mystery novels in passing, he showed up the next week with a vintage Agatha Christie in English, pages yellowed but intact. "Where did you find this?" she asked, holding it carefully. "I know people who deal in rare items." "This must have been expensive," he shrugged. "I wanted you to have it." She looked at him, this man who was becoming important too quickly, and felt the first whisper of fear. Because she was falling for someone she barely knew, someone who gave non-answers and changed subjects when questions got too personal. But his hand found hers while they walked, and the fear got quieter. 6 weeks in, the museum director called her into his office. Director Park was a serious man who rarely smiled, so when he did, it meant something significant. "We've been contacted by a private collector," he said. "He's acquired several rare texts and wants authentication before a major auction. The fee is substantial, and he specifically requested you." Rochelle frowned. "Me? I've only been here 3 years. Surely someone more senior. He was very insistent. Said he'd heard excellent things about your work." Director Park slid a paper across his desk. "The preliminary appointment is tomorrow. His office in Hyundai, 2 o'clock. The address was in the fancy part of the district, where buildings had marble lobbies and security desks. Rochelle dressed professionally, pencil skirt and a blazer, her hair neat, and actual nice shoes instead of her usual comfortable flats. She brought her authentication kit, notebooks, and the nervous energy of wanting to make a good impression. The building was exactly as intimidating as she feared, all glass and steel, the lobby echoing with her footsteps. The security guard checked her ID, made a phone call, then directed her to the 20th floor. The elevator ride felt long. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space that redefined her understanding of office luxury. Not ostentatious, but everything was clearly expensive in that quiet way that spoke of real wealth. Minimalist furniture, original art on the walls, and windows showing a panoramic view of the ocean. A woman in a crisp suit greeted her. "Miss Baptiste, Mr. Kang is expecting you. This way, please." Rochelle followed her down a hallway, mind cataloging the art pieces, trying to calm her nerves. This was just authentication work. She'd done this before. Smaller scale, sure, but same principle. The woman opened the door to a conference room. "He'll be right with you. Please make yourself comfortable." The room held a long table with several books already laid out, covered in protective cloth. Rochelle approached them, Professional curiosity overriding nerves. She was reaching for the first cloth when the door opened behind her. "Thank you for coming on short notice." She knew that voice. Her entire body went still. Rochelle turned slowly. Dae-hyun stood in the doorway, but not the Dae-hyun she knew. This version wore a tailored black suit that fit him like it had been drawn on, hair styled back, expression cool and professional. He looked expensive. He looked powerful. He looked like a stranger. Rochelle. Her name in his mouth, familiar and foreign at once. "What is this?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. He stepped into the room, closing the door. "Exactly what Director Park told you. I need books authenticated." You're the client?" "Yes." Her mind raced, trying to reconcile the man in ripped jeans eating gamjatang with this person. "You lied to me." "I never lied." "You let me think." She stopped, replaying conversations. "Art acquisition." He'd said art acquisition. "You didn't correct my assumptions." "No." He moved closer, and she stepped back instinctively. Something crossed his face, too quick to read. "Would it have mattered, that first night, if you'd known?" "I don't know. Maybe." "Yes." She pressed her fingers to her temples. "I feel like an idiot." "Don't." His voice went softer. "That night was the first real conversation I'd had in years. You didn't want anything from me because you didn't know there was anything to want. Do you understand how rare that is?" "So what? This was a test? See if the broke book girl would stick around after finding out you have money." "No." He sounded tired. "This is me trying to keep two parts of my life separate and failing. I knew you'd be assigned eventually. The museum's the best in the city, and you're the best they have." "How would you even know that?" "Because I pay attention." He gestured to the books. "This isn't a game, Rochelle. I really do need authentication. And I wanted it to be you because I trust your expertise." She looked at the covered books, then back at him. "What are these?" 15th and 16th century texts, mixed European and East Asian origin, acquired through estate sales and private collections. Something in the phrase, private collections, sounded carefully worded. Rochelle moved to the table, pulled back the first cloth. A manuscript, illuminated borders, Latin text. Beautiful. Old. Potentially very valuable. "Where exactly did you acquire these?" "I have documentation." "That's not what I asked." Dae-hyun was quiet for a moment. "The sources are legitimate. Gray market perhaps, but legal." Gray market. Estate liquidations, debt settlements. People are selling quickly and quietly. She ran her finger above the manuscript, not touching, just tracing the air. "People in trouble. People making choices. I pay fairly. I'm sure you do." She looked at him. "Is any of this stolen?" "No. I don't deal in stolen goods." "You're very specific with your words." "I'm being honest." "Are you?" The question hung between them. "What do you actually do, Dae-hyun? And don't say art acquisition like it explains anything." He moved to the window, silhouette against the brightness. "I run a company that facilitates the movement of high-value items between people who can't use traditional channels. Sometimes that's for privacy. Sometimes tax reasons. Sometimes because the items exist in legal gray areas." That sounds like a very clean way of describing something dirty. "It's complicated." "Try me. I'm smart, remember?" "You said so yourself." He turned. "My family has been in this business for 3 generations. Import-export officially. But the real money comes from connections, information, and being willing to operate where others won't. I'm trying to legitimize it, shift us toward fully legal operations, but that takes time and strategy." "Your family? You mean organized crime?" "I mean family business." But he didn't deny it. Rochelle felt something crack in her chest. This man she'd been falling for, who brought her vintage books and held her hand on the beach, was telling her he was a criminal. Polite about it, honest even, but still. "I should go," she said. "Will you authenticate the manuscripts first?" "Are you serious? It's what you came here to do. It's your job." "My job doesn't include getting tangled up with—" She gestured at him, at the room, at everything, whatever this is. "Then don't get tangled up. Do your job, professionally. I'll pay the museum's fee. You'll provide authentication. And that's all it has to be." "And us?" His expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through the professional mask. "That's your decision. But I meant what I said that first night, and every night since. You're the first real thing I've had in longer than I can remember. You don't really know me. I know you sing to damaged books while you work. You know because Una told my assistant, who told me. I know you're afraid of letting people in because they always want something eventually. I know you're brave enough to move across the world alone and soft enough to cry at elderly couples holding hands. I know your favorite color is the specific purple of jacaranda flowers, even though they don't grow here and you miss them." Rochelle's throat tightened. She had mentioned jacarandas once, barely a comment. "I pay attention," he said again, quieter, "because you matter to me." She wanted to believe him. That was the terrifying part. Standing in this expensive office with a man who just admitted to being a criminal, she still wanted to believe him. "What would you do if you discovered this truth? Would you walk away or stay to hear him out? Comment your honest answer." "I need time," she said finally, "to think." "Okay. And I'll authenticate the manuscripts, professionally, because it is my job. Thank you." She gathered her things, needing distance, needing air. At the door, she paused. "Don't contact me for a while. I'll reach out when I'm ready." "How long is a while?" "I don't know. You'll have to trust me." She left before he could respond, rode the elevator down with her heart beating too fast, and her thoughts spinning. On the street, surrounded by normal people doing normal things, she tried to organize her feelings into something manageable. She'd been falling for him. Past tense felt safer, even though present tense was more accurate. He was involved in illegal activities, but trying to go legitimate, or so he claimed. He'd hidden who he was, but technically hadn't lied. He paid attention to her in ways that made her feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. And she had no idea what to do with any of it. Her phone buzzed. Against her better judgment, she checked it. "Dae-hyun. I'll wait. However long you need." She stared at the message, then turned off her phone and walked toward the subway, trying to ignore the part of her that wanted to turn back. The manuscripts were real. Rochelle spent 3 days verifying them, cross-referencing watermarks and binding techniques, consulting databases and colleagues without mentioning her client's name. Everything checked out. Legitimate acquisitions, impressive collection, exactly what Dae-hyun had said. It didn't make her feel better. She submitted her report through Director Park, kept everything professional and distant. No direct contact with Dae-hyun, though his assistant called to confirm receipt and arrange payment. The fee was generous, but not excessive. Fair, like he'd promised. 2 weeks passed. Rochelle threw herself into work, accepted every project, and stayed late cataloging and repairing. Una asked once if something had happened with that guy, and Rochelle said it was complicated and left it there. She missed him. That was the problem. She missed his dry humor and quiet observations, missed the way he looked at her like she was interesting rather than decorative, missed feeling like someone understood the parts of her she usually kept hidden. But missing someone didn't mean being with them was smart. Her mother called on a Thursday evening. "Mrs. Kim says her nephew really likes you." When are you seeing him again? We're taking a break, Mom. A break? You just started. It's complicated. Everything's complicated with you, Rochelle. This is a good man from a good family. What's the problem? If only she knew. I'm just not sure we're compatible. You'll never be sure if you don't try. You're 27 years old, and you're living in a foreign country alone. Don't you want a partner? Someone to build a life with? I'm fine alone. Fine isn't happy. Her mother's voice softened slightly. Baby, I know I push, but I want you to have someone. I don't want you to wake up at 40 and realize you've been so busy protecting yourself that you forgot to actually live. The words hit harder than expected. After they hung up, Rochelle sat in her small apartment, surrounded by books and silence, and wondered if her mother was right. Her phone sat on the table, dark and quiet. Dae-hyun had kept his word. No messages, no contact. Waiting like he'd promised. She picked it up, opened their chat, saw the last message. I'll wait. However long you need. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. What would she even say? Sorry, I panicked when I found out you're a criminal. Want to get coffee? Nothing felt right. Before she could decide, her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Miss Baptiste. A woman's voice, accented English. This is Kang Min-seo, Dae-hyun's sister. Rochelle sat up straighter. How did you get my number? That doesn't matter. I need to speak with you. It's about my brother. I don't think, please, it's important. 30 minutes. There's a cafe in Seomyeon, Cafe Onul. I'll be at the back table. Why would I? Because you care about him, and he's in trouble. 30 minutes. She hung up. Rochelle stared at her phone. This was a terrible idea. Meeting the sister of a man she was actively avoiding, based on a vague claim of trouble. Obviously, a manipulation. She was out the door in 5 minutes. Cafe Onul was quiet, jazz playing softly, smell of coffee and pastries. The woman at the back table was unmistakably Dae-hyun's sister, with the same sharp features and tired eyes, though hers were accented with perfect makeup, and her suit probably cost more than Rochelle's monthly rent. Min-seo gestured to the seat across from her. Thank you for coming. You said Da-hyun's in trouble. Direct. I appreciate that. Min-seo stirred her coffee slowly. Did my brother tell you about our family business? Some. Did he tell you he's trying to leave it? Rochelle hesitated. He said he's trying to legitimize operations. That's the polite version. The truth is, he wants out completely. Clean break. Legal business only. Min-seo's expression was hard to read. Our uncle runs the family operations. He's old school, traditional. He sees Dae-hyun's plans as betrayal. Why are you telling me this? Because my brother has been different since he met you. Lighter, more determined, and now he's made moves that have angered dangerous people, and I think you're part of why he finally had the courage. Rochelle's stomach tightened. What kind of moves? He refused a major deal last week. Told our uncle he was done facilitating certain transactions. It was a power play. A line in the sand. Min-seo leaned forward. Our uncle doesn't accept lines. He sees them as challenges. What does this have to do with me? Everything. You're his vulnerability now. And in our world, vulnerabilities get exploited. The fear that spiked through Rochelle was sharp and cold. Are you threatening me? No. I'm warning you. If you care about my brother, you need to either commit fully or walk away cleanly. Half measures will get you both hurt. I barely know him. You know enough to be here. Min-seo stood, placing money on the table for her untouched coffee. Dae-hyun's a good man trying to do right in a world that punishes goodness. He needs allies. Decide if you're one. She left, heels clicking, against tile, and Rochelle sat alone with racing thoughts and a decision she wasn't ready to make. She went to his office the next morning. Didn't call ahead, Just showed up and told the receptionist her name. Within 2 minutes, she was being escorted upstairs. Dae-hyun looked surprised when she entered his office, standing from behind his desk. "Rochelle, your sister came to see me." His expression darkened. "Min-seo had no right." "Is it true? What she said about you leaving and your uncle?" He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it's my problem to solve. I didn't want you involved in family politics." "I'm already involved. Or have you not figured that out yet?" She moved closer. "You can't protect me by keeping secrets. That's not how this works." "How what works?" "This. Us. Whatever we're trying to be." Dae-hyun came around the desk. "What are we trying to be?" "I don't know yet. But I know I can't figure it out if you're hiding things." She took a breath. "I need honesty. Complete honesty. The ugly parts, the complicated parts, all of it." "Okay." He gestured to the sofa by the window. They sat, not touching, tension thick between them. "Ask me anything," he said. "Are you in danger?" "Potentially. I've made it clear I'm transitioning to fully legitimate business. Some people aren't happy about that. Your uncle, among others. I've been useful to certain operations. Walking away creates complications. Can you actually walk away? Or is this a situation where, once you're in, you're in?" "I can walk away. It'll cost me relationships, mostly family connections, but it's possible." He looked at her. "I want to build something clean, something I can be proud of." "Why now?" "Because I'm 34 years old and tired of looking over my shoulder. Because I want a life that doesn't require lies." He paused. "Because I met someone who makes me want to be better." Her heart did something complicated. "Don't put that on me. I'm not. The decision was mine. But you were the catalyst." Rochelle pulled her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. "I don't know how to do this. Date someone with your history, your complications. I'm a book restorer who likes quiet and predictability. I know. I'm probably going to panic again. I know that too. And there's the race thing. Your family, has your uncle, or anyone, said anything about me being black?" Dae-hyun's jaw tightened. "Yes." At least he was honest. "What did they say?" "Things I won't repeat because they don't deserve to be spoken twice. I made it clear that any disrespect toward you meant cutting ties with me entirely. You can't control what people think." "No. But I can control what I tolerate." He shifted to face her fully. "I won't lie and say it'll be easy. My family's traditional in the worst ways. But their prejudice is their problem, not yours, and definitely not ours." "Ours," she echoed. "You're very confident there's an ours." "I'm hopeful." She studied him, this man who was simultaneously exactly what she wanted and everything she'd sworn to avoid. Complicated, dangerous, entangling, but also honest when pushed, determined to change, and looking at her like she was worth the effort. "If I do this," she said slowly, "if I try this with you, I need boundaries. Clear ones. Name them. No lies, even by omission. If something's happening that affects you, it affects us, and I need to know." "Agreed. I won't be involved in anything illegal. I'll authenticate pieces if they're legitimate. But that's where my involvement with your business ends." "Agreed. And if it gets too dangerous, if your uncle or anyone else becomes a real threat, I'm out. I won't apologize for prioritizing my safety. I'd never ask you to." He reached for her hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers laced with hers, warm and solid. "Anything else? Introduce me to your sister properly. If she's going to ambush me in cafes, I should at least know her over actual food." He smiled, that rare, full smile that transformed his face. "I can arrange that." Okay then. She squeezed his hand. Let's try this. Slowly, with our eyes open. Slowly, he agreed. But the way he was looking at her didn't feel slow at all. It felt like falling, terrifying and exhilarating at once. She should have been more careful, should have protected herself better. But sitting there with her hand in his, Rochelle made a choice that logic warned against, and her heart insisted on. She chose to trust him. She just hoped it wouldn't destroy them both. The next 3 weeks felt like learning a new language, one where the vocabulary was trust, and the grammar was compromise. Dae-hyun kept his word about honesty, which meant Rochelle learned more about his world than she'd ever wanted to know. The family business had started legitimately generations ago, importing textiles and ceramics, but his grandfather had discovered that moving other items people wanted to keep quiet, paid better. By the time Dae-hyun inherited his position, the company was successful, connected, and thoroughly entangled with organized networks across 3 countries. I was 23 when my father died, Dae-hyun told her one evening. They were in his apartment, a minimalist space in Marine City that felt more like a hotel than a home. She was curled on his couch while he cooked, something simple, pasta and vegetables. My uncle said I could step up or step aside. I chose up because I thought I could protect Min-seo, keep her out of it. Did you? Rochelle asked. No. She's smarter than me and twice as ruthless when she needs to be. She chose in on her own terms. He plated the food and brought it over. But I spent a decade building connections and leverage. Now I'm using all of it to extract us both. Does she want out too? She wants options. Right now we don't have many. Rochelle twirled pasta around her fork. What happens if your uncle doesn't let you go? Then it gets complicated. More complicated than already dating a woman while trying to leave organized crime? He smiled slightly. Fair point. She appreciated that he didn't minimize the risks or make promises he couldn't keep. When she asked direct questions, he gave direct answers. When she said she needed space to process, he gave her that too. It wasn't easy, any of it, but it felt real in a way her past relationships hadn't. Meeting Min-seo properly happened on a Saturday afternoon at a seafood restaurant in Songdo. Dae-hyun's sister arrived exactly on time, dressed more casually than before, but still polished in a way Rochelle envied. They ordered raw fish and soju, and Min-seo studied Rochelle with unsettling directness. You're braver than I expected, Min-seo said finally. Is that a compliment? An observation. Most people run when they learn about our family. I considered it, Rochelle admitted. Still considering it some days. Min-seo laughed, surprised and genuine. I like her, she said to Dae-hyun. I'm aware. Does Mother know about her? Not yet. That'll be entertaining. Min-seo poured soju for all 3 of them. Fair warning, our mother makes his uncle look progressive. She has very specific ideas about appropriate partners. Min-seo, Dae-hyun's voice carried a warning. What? She should know what she's walking into. Min-seo looked at Rochelle. I'm not trying to scare you off, but our family doesn't do anything halfway. If you're with Dae-hyun, you're choosing all the complications that come with him. I'm aware of that too, Rochelle said quietly. Something shifted in Min-seo's expression, assessment becoming respect. Good. Then we understand each other. The conversation moved to safer topics after that, but Rochelle felt the weight of what had been said. She was choosing complications, choosing a relationship that came with danger and prejudice, and family drama that made her own mother's meddling look simple. Later, walking along the beach with Dae-hyun, she voiced the thought that had been building. Your sister's right. This is a lot. It is. I keep waiting for the moment when it feels like too much. He stopped walking and turned to face her. The ocean wind caught his hair, and the setting sun made shadows of his features. Has that moment come? Not yet. She stepped closer. but I'm scared it will. Me too. The honesty of it steadied her somehow. He was scared too, which meant this mattered to him as much as it did to her. They were both risking something. He kissed her then, soft and careful, his hand cupping her face like she was something precious. When they pulled apart, Rochelle felt the ground shift beneath her, not literally but emotionally, the sense that she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. I should tell you, hell, something, Dae-hyun said, still close enough that she felt his words against her skin. Her stomach tightened. What? There's a meeting next week, with my uncle and the other senior members. I'm formally announcing my exit from certain operations. Is that safe? It's necessary. I've been laying groundwork for months, shifting assets, renegotiating contracts. But the announcement makes it official. And your uncle will be there? Yes. Rochelle pulled back slightly to see his face better. What aren't you telling me? He hesitated, and she saw him weighing his words. There might be pushback, attempts to change my mind, or make exit conditions difficult. Difficult how? Financial penalties, severed relationships, possibly threats. Possibly? Probably, he corrected. Uncle Kangdae doesn't like losing assets, and I'm a valuable asset. You're a person, not an asset. In his world, those are the same thing. Dae-hyun took her hand. I'm telling you because I promised honesty, and because after the meeting, things might get tense for a while. I'll understand if you want distance during that time. She should want distance. Logic screamed for distance. But instead, she squeezed his hand and said, When's the meeting? Thursday, 2 in the afternoon. I'll take a late lunch. Text me when it's done so I know you're okay. Something vulnerable crossed his face. You don't have to worry about me. Too late. I already do. He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Rochelle let herself fall into it, into him, even knowing the landing might hurt. Thursday arrived with gray skies and humidity that pressed down like a warning. Rochelle tried to focus on work, a damaged manuscript from the 1800s that needed careful cleaning, but her mind kept drifting. 2 o'clock came and went. Then 3. Her phone stayed silent. By 4, she was checking it every few minutes. By 5, she was actively worried. At 5:30, it finally buzzed. She grabbed it so fast, she nearly dropped it. Dae-hyun, it's done. Can I see you? Her hand shook slightly as she typed back. My place. I'll order food. He arrived an hour later, still in his suit but disheveled, tie loose, and hair messed like he'd been running his hands through it. Rochelle took one look at his face and knew it had gone badly. Tell me, she said, pulling him inside. He sat heavily on her small couch, head in his hands. She sat beside him, waiting. My uncle countered with an offer, Dae-hyun said finally. Stay for 2 more years, facilitate 1 major deal, then I can leave with his blessing and financial support. That doesn't sound terrible. The deal is smuggling art from private collections in Hong Kong, museums and estates, not technically stolen, but acquired through coercion and sold without proper export documentation. That's very technically stolen. Yes. Rochelle processed this. What did you say? I refused. Said I was done with gray area operations, that the whole point was going legitimate. He looked at her. He didn't take it well. Define not well. He suggested that my sudden moral awakening was due to outside influences, that perhaps I was prioritizing a relationship over family loyalty. Her blood went cold. He mentioned me specifically? Not by name, but the implication was clear. So he knows about us. He knows I'm seeing someone. Details are scarce. I've been careful. But he has resources. Rochelle stood, needing to move. Her apartment was small, barely room to pace, but she tried anyway. What does this mean? It means I need to be more careful. that we need to be more careful. Careful how? Looking over our shoulders constantly, wondering if we're being followed. Possibly. He stood too. I know this isn't what you signed up for. I didn't sign up for anything. I agreed to try dating you, not enter witness protection. I know. Do you? Because this keeps getting bigger. First it's just family business. Then it's leaving said business. Now it's your uncle making veiled threats. What's next? I don't know. His voice was tired. I'm trying to navigate this without anyone getting hurt. Maybe that's not possible. Maybe someone always gets hurt in situations like this. They stared at each other across her small living room, and Rochelle felt the future fracturing into paths. She could walk away now, protect herself, and return to her quiet life. Or she could stay, accept the danger, and hope Dae-hyun's plans worked. I need you to be realistic with me, she said. Completely realistic. Can you actually get out of this? Or are you trapped? He took a long breath. I can get out, but it'll cost more than I anticipated, and take longer, and require strategies I'm not proud of. What kind of strategies? Leverage. Information. I know things about my uncle's operations. Details he'd prefer stayed private. If he pushes too hard, I'll push back. That's blackmail. That's survival. Rochelle sat back down, legs suddenly unsteady. This is really your life? This is normal for you. It's what I know. But it's not what I want. He knelt in front of her, eye level. I want boring. I want Sunday mornings, grocery shopping, and arguments about what to watch on TV. I want normal, Rochelle, with you. But I have to get through this first. She looked at him. Really looked. Saw the exhaustion, the determination, the fear he was trying to hide. This man, who'd been raised in a world of leverage and manipulation, but wanted something different, badly enough, to fight his own family for it. Okay, she said quietly. Okay? I'm staying. I'm scared, and this is completely insane, but I'm staying. She cupped his face. But you have to promise me something. Anything. If it gets too dangerous, if your uncle escalates beyond threats, you'll tell me immediately. No protecting me by hiding information. We face it, together or not at all. Together, he agreed. He stayed that night, and they didn't do anything but hold each other, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, his arms around her like she was the only solid thing in his world. It should have felt too fast, too intense, but instead, it felt necessary, like they were building something to withstand what was coming. What would you do if the person you loved was trapped between family and freedom? Would you stay and help them fight, or protect yourself first? Comment your honest answer. The next 2 weeks were deceptively calm. Dae-hyun went to work, Rochelle restored books, and they had dinner together most nights, and pretended everything was normal. But Rochelle noticed things. The way he checked his phone constantly, how he varied their routes when they went out, the fact that he'd hired additional security for his building. "You're being followed, aren't you?" she asked one night. He didn't deny it. "My uncle's people, keeping tabs. That doesn't scare you? It annoys me. There's a difference." But she saw through the bravado to the tension underneath. He was worried, just managing it better than she would. Her own life continued with surreal normalcy. Her mother called to ask about that nice Korean boy, and Rochelle gave vague, positive answers. Yuna noticed she was distracted and assumed it was new relationship jitters. Director Park assigned her a 17th century prayer book that needed extensive repair, and she lost herself in the precision work, grateful for problems that could be solved with steady hands and patience. Then Minseo called. "We need to talk," Dae-hyun's sister said without preamble. "Not over the phone. Can you meet me?" "When?" "Now. There's a coffee shop near the museum, Cafe Bora. I'm already here." Rochelle made an excuse to Director Park and left. The cafe was a 5-minute walk, tucked into a quiet street. Minseo sat at a corner table, 2 cups already ordered. "You sounded urgent," Rochelle said, sitting down. "Our uncle made another move." Minseo pushed 1 cup toward her. "He's filed formal complaints with the company board about Dae-hyun's management decisions. Claims he's making choices based on emotion rather than business sense. Is that serious?" "It could be. The board is mostly family, and family politics are complicated. If enough members side with Uncle, they could force Dae-hyun out entirely." "I thought he wanted out." "On his terms, with his assets and reputation intact. This would be a hostile removal, forfeiting everything he's built." Minseo leaned forward. "Uncle's strategy is to make staying more appealing than leaving. Strip away Dae-hyun's resources, so he has nothing to build a legitimate business with." Rochelle's hands tightened around the cup. "What can we do? We need allies on the board. I'm working that angle. But I need to know you're committed." "To what?" "To my brother. Because this is going to get worse before it gets better. And if you're going to leave, better now than when he's in deeper." "I'm not leaving." Minseo studied her. "Uncle knows about you. Not everything, but enough. He's traditional enough to disapprove of Dae-hyun dating a foreigner, and prejudiced enough to be worse about you being black. He'll use that. How? Pressure, social, family. He'll make it clear you're not welcome. Try to make Dae-hyun choose." Rochelle thought about her mother's warnings about racism in Korea, the stares she sometimes got, and the assumptions. She'd dealt with prejudice her whole life, but this felt different, sharper, more personal. "I won't make things harder for Dae-hyun," she said carefully. "You already make things harder. You also make them better. Don't mistake me. I'm not saying leave. I'm saying prepare for people to be cruel, and decide now how you'll handle it." "I can handle it." "Can you handle them being cruel to him about you?" "That's different." It was different. The thought of Dae-hyun facing family rejection because of her made her stomach turn. But she thought about what he'd said, about wanting normal, about fighting for something better. "Yes," she said with more confidence than she felt. "I can handle it." Minseo nodded slowly. "Good, because we're going to need all the strength we can get." The board meeting happened 3 days later. Dae-hyun was tense all morning, texting Rochelle updates that were brief and stress-laden. "Starting soon." Then an hour later, taking a break, not going well. Then nothing for 2 hours. When he finally called, his voice was rough. "Can you come to my place?" "I'm on my way." She found him on his balcony, overlooking the ocean, shoulders tight with tension. He didn't turn when she approached, just said, "They sided with him. Not unanimously, but enough." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm being removed from decision-making on major contracts. Effectively, sidelined in my own company." He finally looked at her. "Minseo voted against me." "What? Why would she?" "Strategy. If she'd sided with me, Uncle would have targeted her too. This way she maintains her position and can work from inside." He rubbed his face. "It's smart, but it still feels like betrayal." Rochelle moved beside him, close but not touching. "What happens now?" "I have 2 choices. Accept the sideline position and wait for another opportunity, or resign completely and forfeit my shares." "Those are both terrible options." "Yes. There has to be a third option." "There is." He turned to face her fully. "I use the information I have about Uncle's less legal operations, threaten exposure unless he backs down." "The blackmail option." "Yes." "Would it work?" "Probably. But it would also destroy any chance of family reconciliation, burn bridges permanently." Rochelle thought about her own family, complicated as they were. "Is reconciliation something you want?" I don't know. They're still family. Family that's trying to control you. Family that operates by different rules. To them, loyalty means obedience. I'm breaking that contract. She understood the weight of that, the complexity. What do you want to do? I want to choose you. The words came out raw. I want to walk away from all of it. Build something clean with someone who makes me feel human. But that requires resources I won't have if I forfeit everything. So use the leverage, play the game one last time. And if it backfires, if he calls my bluff and I have to follow through with exposure, that doesn't just hurt him. It impacts everyone connected to the business. Employees, partners, Min Seo. Your sister knew the risks when she voted against you. Did you know the risks when you chose to stay with me? The question hung between them. Rochelle thought about the past few weeks, the escalating tension, the realization that she'd stepped into something bigger than a relationship. She was now part of a strategy, a complication in a family war. I'm starting to, she said honestly. Dae-hyun reached for her hand. I would understand if you wanted out. This isn't fair to you. Not much about this has been fair, but I'm still here. Why? She thought about her answer, wanted it to be true. Because I think you're worth it. Because everyone deserves a chance to change their life. And because loving you might destroy me, but leaving you definitely will. His expression cracked, vulnerability flooding through. He pulled her close, held her like she was the only thing keeping him standing. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. They stood like that while the sun set over the ocean. Two people trying to build something good in the wreckage of complicated histories. That night, lying in his bed, with her head on his shoulder, Rochelle asked the question she'd been avoiding. Do you love me? She felt him tense, then relax. Yes. I know it's fast, and probably insane. But yes, I think I love you too, which is definitely insane. He shifted to look at her, face serious in the dim light. We can still stop this. Go back to separate lives before it gets worse. Do you want to stop? No. Then we don't stop. We figure it out. She kissed him softly. Together. Together, he echoed. But even as she said it, Rochelle felt the ground shifting beneath them, sensed that bigger complications were coming. Loving him was the easy part. Surviving what came next would test everything they were trying to build. The call came at 2 a.m, jerking Rochelle awake. Dae-hyun's phone was vibrating on the nightstand. He grabbed it, voice rough with sleep. What? Then he sat up, fully alert. When? Is she hurt? Rochelle sat up too, suddenly wide awake. What's wrong? He was already moving, pulling on clothes. Min Seo's apartment was broken into. She's fine, she wasn't? There, but the place was ransacked. Oh my God. I need to go. He was dressed, grabbing keys and wallet. Stay here, lock the door behind me. I'm coming with you. Rochelle. She's scared, and you're upset. I'm coming. He looked like he wanted to argue, then nodded. Get dressed. Quickly. They were in his car within minutes, driving through empty streets toward Min Seo's building in Centum City. Dae-hyun's hands were tight on the wheel, jaw clenched. Could it have been a random break-in? Rochelle asked. Her building has security, cameras. Someone planned this. Your uncle. Or someone working for him, sending a message. They pulled up to find police cars outside, lights flashing. Min Seo stood near the entrance, talking to officers, still in the clothes she'd been wearing earlier, makeup smudged. When she saw them, relief flashed across her face. Dae-hyun pulled her into a hug. Are you okay? I'm fine. I was at a friend's. Came home to this. She gestured to the building. They took my laptop, some files. Nothing valuable, just information. What kind of information? Rochelle asked. Min Seo met her eyes. The kind that connects dots, financial records, contact lists, things that could be useful if someone wanted leverage. He's escalating, Dae-hyun said quietly. Yes. The police took statements, promised to review security footage, and said the usual things about investigations. When they finally left, the three of them sat in Dae-hyun's car, exhausted and wired. I'm staying in a hotel tonight, Min-seo said. I don't feel safe going back in. Stay with me, Dae-hyun offered. Or me, Rochelle added. My place is small, but it's something. Min-seo looked surprised. You'd offer that? You're important to Dae-hyun, which makes you important to me. Something shifted in Min-seo's expression, walls coming down slightly. Thank you. But I'll get a hotel. I need space to think. About what? Dae-hyun asked. Dae-hyun, about whether we're fighting a war we can't win. She looked at her brother. He's not going to stop. You realize that? Uncle will keep pushing until one of us breaks. Then we push back harder. With what? He has the board, the resources, and the loyalty of people who've known him for decades. What do we have? Each other, Rochelle said, and the truth about his operations. Both siblings looked at her. You think we should use the leverage? Min-seo said. I think you're out of gentle options. Dae-hyun shook his head. Exposing him means exposing the whole operation. People go down with him. Innocent people. Are there innocent people? Rochelle asked carefully. Or are there people who chose to participate in illegal activities and are now facing consequences? That's harsh, Min-seo said, but she didn't sound disagreeable. It's realistic. You both keep trying to protect people who aren't protecting you. At some point, you have to choose yourselves. Dae-hyun stared out the windshield. If we do this, there's no going back. Family ties get severed permanently. They're already severed, Min-seo said quietly. He broke into my home, Dae-hyun. That's not family. That's enemy territory. The silence stretched. Then Dae-hyun nodded once, decision made. Okay. We use the leverage, but carefully, precisely. Minimum damage. Agreed, Min-seo said. They made plans there in the car as dawn started to break. 3 people deciding to fight back against someone more powerful, and Rochelle felt the story shift into something darker, something that would test everything they claimed to believe about loyalty and love. She'd chosen to stay. Now she had to live with where that choice led, even if the destination terrified her. The strategy took 3 days to assemble. Dae-hyun had been collecting information for years, not originally for leverage, but for protection, insurance, in case family loyalty ever turned against him. Now those files became weapons, financial records showing unreported income, communications detailing deals that violated export laws, connections to individuals the government had been trying to link to organized crime for decades. Min-seo added her own documentation, things she'd quietly gathered during her years managing company accounts. Together, they built a case that wouldn't just embarrass their uncle, it would dismantle his entire operation. Once we deliver this, everything changes, Min-seo said. They were in Dae-hyun's apartment, documents spread across the dining table like evidence at a trial. We become the enemy. Permanently. We're already the enemy, Dae-hyun said. He just hasn't made it official yet. Rochelle sat slightly apart, watching them work. She'd helped organize files, her book restoration skills translating surprisingly well to document management, but the actual content made her stomach turn. The scope of what Dae-hyun's family had been involved in went beyond gray market, art deals, money laundering, political bribery, intimidation tactics that stopped just short of violence, but implied it clearly. Are you sure about this? She asked quietly. Both siblings looked at her. Having doubts? Min-seo asked, not unkindly. Having reality checks. This is massive, life-altering. Are we sure there's no other way? What other way? Dae-hyun moved to sit beside her. He broke into my sister's home. He's freezing me out of my own company. What compromise exists with someone who sees any boundary as betrayal? I don't know. Once you do this, you can't undo it. I know. He took her hand. But staying silent means letting him control our lives forever. Is that what you want? She thought about it honestly. Did she want a future where they were always looking over their shoulders, always subject to his uncle's whims? Where Min-seo got targeted for her brother's choices, and Da-hyun never escaped the life he was trying to leave? No, she said, finally. I want you free. Both of you. Then we do this. He squeezed her hand. Together. The plan was to deliver the information to Uncle Kang-dae directly, privately, with clear terms. Dae-hyun and Min-seo would resign from all company positions, forfeit their shares, and walk away. In exchange, Uncle Kang-dae would leave them alone. No retaliation, no interference in their new ventures. If he refused, the documents would go to appropriate authorities. He'll be furious, Min-seo predicted. Probably threaten us. Let him threaten, Dae-hyun said, as long as he knows we're serious. They scheduled the meeting for Saturday morning at a neutral location, a private room in a hotel in Hyundai. Formal, public enough to discourage violence, but private enough for difficult conversations. Rochelle wasn't invited, which she understood, but hated. I'll be waiting, she told Dae-hyun the night before. Text me every 30 minutes so I know you're okay. I will. They were in her apartment, neither of them sleeping well lately. If something goes wrong, nothing's going wrong. You have leverage and a solid plan. But if it does, I need you to promise me something. She looked at him, saw the fear he was trying to hide. What? Promise you'll walk away from all of this. Go back to your quiet life, your books, your safety. Don't let my family's mess destroy you. Dae-hyun, promise me, Rochelle. I can handle a lot, but not you getting hurt because of me. She wanted to argue, to say she'd fight for him no matter what. But she saw the desperate need in his eyes, the way this request mattered to him deeply. I promise I'll be smart, she said carefully. I won't make stupid choices, but I'm not abandoning you. That might be a stupid choice. Then I guess I'm stupid. She kissed him, soft and lingering. You don't get to protect me by pushing me away. We're past that. He held her close, and she felt his heart beating too fast against her chest. They stayed like that for a long time, two people trying to find courage in each other. Saturday morning arrived cold and bright. Dae-hyun left early, dressed in a dark suit that made him look older, harder. Min-seo met him at the hotel, equally formal, equally tense. Rochelle watched the clock at her apartment, phone in hand, waiting. The first text came at 9:15. Meeting starting, 9:45. Presented terms. He's reviewing documents. 10:15. Nothing. 10:30. Still nothing. Rochelle stared at her phone, anxiety building. She texted, "You okay?" No response. 11 o'clock. Her phone finally buzzed, but it was Min-seo, not Dae-hyun. "Need you at Busan Metro Hospital, now." Her heart stopped. She was moving before conscious thought, grabbing keys and wallet, running for the subway. The ride felt endless. Every stop an eternity. Her mind created terrible scenarios, each worse than the last. The hospital was in chaos. People everywhere, fluorescent lights too bright. She found Min-seo in a waiting area, face pale, hands shaking. "What happened?" Rochelle demanded. Uncle didn't take it well. Started yelling, making threats. Dae-hyun stayed calm until Uncle grabbed him, tried to physically intimidate him. They struggled. Dae-hyun shoved him back. Uncle fell, hit his head on the table corner. Oh God. There was blood. So much blood. We called an ambulance. The police came. It's a mess. Min Seo looked at her with haunted eyes. This is my fault. I pushed for the confrontation. Where's Dae-hyun? Giving a statement to the police. They're treating it as self-defense for now, but if Uncle presses charges, if his injuries are serious... Her voice broke. Rochelle sat beside her and took her hand. We'll figure it out. How? This was supposed to be clean, strategic. Now it's assault charges and hospital rooms. They sat in terrible silence until Dae-hyun appeared, flanked by a lawyer. Rochelle didn't recognize. He looked exhausted, shaken, but unharmed. When he saw Rochelle, relief flooded his face. You're here. Min Seo texted. What's happening? The lawyer, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes, answered. Mr. Kang is being evaluated for head trauma. Early indications suggest a concussion, possibly a minor skull fracture. Police have statements from both parties. The hotel has security footage showing the physical altercation. Am I being charged? Dae-hyun asked. Not yet. It depends on Mr. Kang Sr.'s statement and medical evaluation. If he claims assault, this gets complicated. It was self-defense, Min Seo said. I witnessed it. Uncle initiated physical contact. Your testimony helps, but family dynamics complicate things. The prosecutor will consider motives, history, the business conflict. The lawyer looked at Dae-hyun. I need to know everything. The documents you brought, the threats made, all of it. They moved to a private consultation room and Rochelle listened as Dae-hyun explained the leverage plan, the documents, his uncle's response. The lawyer's expression grew grimmer. This could be painted as extortion, she said. You brought incriminating evidence and demanded he let you leave the company. A prosecutor could argue you provoked the confrontation. We were defending ourselves from ongoing harassment, Min Seo countered, which you'll need to prove. The break-in at your apartment, was it reported? Yes, but nothing concrete tied it to Uncle. Then it's your word against his, and he has the board's support. The lawyer sighed. I'm not saying this is unwinnable, but it's going to be difficult and expensive. How expensive? Dae-hyun asked. She named a figure that made Rochelle's stomach drop. That was nearly everything Dae-hyun had in liquid assets, money he'd been counting on to start his legitimate business. Do it, he said without hesitation. Whatever it costs. After the lawyer left to make calls, the three of them sat in exhausted silence. Rochelle's phone buzzed, her mother asking about weekend plans. The normalcy of it felt absurd. You should go home, Dae-hyun said to her. This is going to be a long day. I'm staying. Rochelle. I'm staying, she repeated firmly. Stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. He looked like he wanted to argue, then just nodded. Okay. They waited. Hours passed. Doctors came and went. Finally, one approached them, a tired-looking man in scrubs. Mr. Kang Dae-hyun? Dae-hyun stood. How is he? Stable. Concussion and a hairline fracture, but no internal bleeding. We're keeping him overnight for observation, but prognosis is good. Relief, unexpected and complicated. Can I see him? He's asked not to receive visitors from family. I'm sorry. Of course he had. Even injured, Uncle Kangdae was making strategic choices. The doctor left, and Dae-hyun sat back down heavily. At least he's okay, Rochelle offered. Is he? Or is he planning his next move while lying in that hospital bed? Min Seo's phone rang. She answered. Listened. Face draining of color. Understood. Yes, I'll tell him. She hung up, hands shaking. That was our company's head of legal. Uncle is pressing assault charges. Full prosecution. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Of course he is, Dae-hyun said quietly. This was never about the documents or the business. It's about control, obedience. He'd rather destroy me than let me leave. So we fight it, Rochelle said. You have witnesses, security footage, a legitimate self-defense claim, and a clear motive for wanting to harm him. The prosecution will argue I brought those documents intending to provoke a confrontation, that I wanted an excuse to hurt him. Did you? The question came from Min Seo, soft but necessary. Dae-hyun met his sister's eyes. No, but I'm not sorry he got hurt. Does that make me guilty? Nobody answered. The truth was too complicated, layered with years of family dysfunction and recent desperation. If someone threatened everything you were trying to build, and a confrontation turned physical, would you regret defending yourself? Or would you feel guilty anyway? Tell me honestly in the comments. The next week was a nightmare of legal consultations, police interviews, and media attention. Someone leaked the story. Corporate air assaults, uncle and business dispute. And suddenly, Rochelle found herself dodging reporters outside her apartment and workplace. Director Park called her in, concerned about the museum's reputation being connected to scandal. I'm not involved in the business dispute, she explained. I'm just dating someone who's having family issues. Family issues that involve assault charges and organized crime allegations. Director Park's expression was sympathetic but firm. I'm not asking you to end your relationship, but I need to know this won't impact your work here. It won't. I promise. But it already was. She couldn't focus. Couldn't stop checking her phone for updates from Dae-hyun or Min Seo. Her hands shook when she tried to work on delicate restorations. Everything felt precarious, like the life she'd built in Busan was crumbling around her. Her mother called that night, voice tight. I'm seeing news articles about Mrs. Kim's nephew, about assault and crime families. Mom, is this the man I set you up with? The one I thought was a nice accountant or whatever his aunt said? He's not an accountant, and it's complicated. Complicated? Rochelle, there are police investigations. What have you gotten yourself into? I'm dating someone whose family is difficult. That's all. That's all. Baby, this isn't a difficult family. This is a dangerous family. You need to come home. I'm not coming home. I'm an adult living my own life. An adult making terrible choices. This man is going to drag you down with him. The words hit harder than they should have. Rochelle found herself blinking back tears. I love him, Mom. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Love isn't always enough. Sometimes love with the wrong person just means you both drown together. After they hung up, Rochelle sat in her apartment alone, wondering if her mother was right. If staying with Dae-hyun meant sacrificing everything else, her job, her peace of mind, her safety, was love enough justification? Her phone buzzed. Dae-hyun. Can I come over? She almost said no, almost chose self-preservation, but she texted back, yes, and waited. He arrived looking worse than she'd ever seen him, hair unkempt, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. I shouldn't be here. I'm probably being followed by reporters. I don't care about reporters. You should. This is affecting your life, your work. Everything I promised wouldn't happen. You didn't promise this wouldn't be hard. You promised to be honest. Have you been? Yes, about everything. She believed him. Then come inside. We'll figure it out. They sat on her couch, close but not touching, both too fragile for comfort. The lawyer says we have a decent case for self-defense, Dae-hyun said. Security footage shows Uncle grabbing me first, but the prosecution is pushing hard, probably at his request. Trial date is set for 6 weeks from now. And if you lose? Jail time. Possibly a year, maybe more, depending on the judge. A year. The words felt impossible. I'd understand if you wanted to walk away. This isn't what you signed up for. Stop saying that. I'm so tired of you permitting me to leave. I'm trying to be realistic. No, you're trying to protect yourself from me leaving by pushing me away first. But I'm not leaving, Dae-hyun. Even if you go to jail for a year, Even if this destroys your business plans, even if your family never accepts me, I'm staying." He looked at her with something like wonder. "Why?" "Because you're worth fighting for. Because everyone deserves someone who stays when things get hard. Because I love you, you idiot. You love me." He said it like he was testing the words. Unfortunately, yes. Very inconvenient timing, I know. He laughed, surprised and broken, then pulled her close. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me." They held each other while the world felt like it was falling apart around them, and Rochelle chose to believe that would be enough. The trial preparation consumed everything. Rochelle found herself pulled into witness interviews, asked about Dae-hyun's character and state of mind leading up to the confrontation. She told the truth, that he'd been stressed but determined to handle things legally, that he'd never expressed desire to hurt anyone. Min-seo was a stronger witness, her testimony about the break-in and her uncle's escalating behavior painting a clear picture of provocation. The security footage helped, showed Uncle Kangdae initiating physical contact, showed Dae-hyun's shove as reactive rather than aggressive. But the prosecution had their own narrative. They brought in business associates who testified about Dae-hyun's erratic behavior in recent months, his sudden moral objections to company practices. They framed him as unstable, vindictive, someone who'd turn on family over personal disagreements. The trial lasted 3 days. Rochelle sat in the courtroom every minute, watching Dae-hyun maintain composure while his character was dismantled, watching Min-seo testify with fierce loyalty, watching Uncle Kangdae play the role of a wounded elder, betrayed by an ungrateful nephew. On the final day, Dae-hyun took the stand. The prosecutor came at him hard, trying to break his calm. "You brought documents incriminating your uncle to a private meeting. What did you expect would happen?" "I expected a negotiation. A negotiation where you held all the power, where you threatened exposure unless he met your demands. I offered a peaceful resolution to a business dispute by threatening to destroy him, by offering truth as an alternative to continued conflict." The prosecutor smiled, sharp and cold. "Truth? You mean the illegal activities your family has engaged in for decades, activities you participated in willingly until recently?" "Yes, I participated. I'm not claiming innocence, but I'm trying to change. Convenient timing, this moral awakening. Right around when you started dating Miss Baptiste, correct?" Dae-hyun's jaw tightened. "My relationship has nothing to do with this. Doesn't it? You meet a woman, and suddenly you want to leave the family business, start fresh. But your uncle won't let you go easily, so you decide to force the issue, even if it means violence." "I didn't initiate violence. The footage shows a physical altercation. What it doesn't show is the emotional manipulation, the systematic effort to back your uncle into a corner until he reacted. You wanted this confrontation, Mr. Kang. You orchestrated it. That's not true. Then why bring Miss Baptiste into your life at all? Why involve an outsider in family business unless you needed a narrative of change, a sympathetic reason for your betrayal?" Rochelle felt sick. They were twisting everything, making her presence in his life into strategy rather than love. Dae-hyun looked at her then, across the courtroom, and his expression softened. "I didn't involve Rochelle in anything. She chose to stay despite knowing the risks. And she's not a narrative. She's the person I love. The person who makes me want to be better than my history." The prosecutor kept pushing, but Dae-hyun didn't break. When he finally stepped down, exhausted but intact, Rochelle wanted to run to him. But she stayed seated, hands clenched, waiting. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the courtroom went silent. "On the charge of assault, how do you find?" "Not guilty." Relief crashed. through Rochelle so hard she nearly sobbed. Beside her, Min-seo grabbed her hand, squeezing tight. At the defense table, Dae-hyun closed his eyes, shoulders dropping. The judge thanked the jury, made some closing remarks about the importance of family resolving disputes through legal channels, then dismissed the court. Outside, away from cameras and reporters, the three of them stood in a quiet hallway. Nobody spoke for a long moment. "It's over," Min-seo said finally. "Actually, over. Is it?" Dae-hyun looked drained. "Uncle's not going to forgive this. The family's not going to welcome us back." "Good. I don't want to go back." She straightened her shoulders. "We're free. Messy, complicated, but free." Rochelle watched them, these siblings who'd fought their way out of a life that tried to trap them. "What happens now?" "Now we build something new," Dae-hyun said. He took her hand. "If you still want to." "I stayed through the trial. I think my intentions are clear. I have almost nothing left. Legal fees took most of my savings. Starting a business will be slow and difficult. So we'll be slow and difficult together." He smiled, real and warm despite everything. Together. 6 months later, Rochelle stood in a small office space in Gwangali, watching Dae-hyun hang a sign that read, "Kang Arts Consulting, Legitimate Acquisitions and Authentication." The irony of having to specify legitimate wasn't lost on either of them. "It's perfect," she said. "It's tiny and smells like the fish restaurant downstairs." "Perfect," she repeated. Min-seo arrived with coffee and pastries, her own business card reading Kong Financial Advisory, Ethical Investment Strategies. She'd left the family company entirely, started her own firm with a handful of clients who valued her expertise over her family connections. "To new beginnings," Min-seo toasted with her coffee cup. "To freedom," Dae-hyun added. "To figuring it out as we go," Rochelle finished. They drank terrible coffee in the tiny office, and it felt more like victory than anything grand would have. That evening, walking along Gwangali Beach, Dae-hyun stopped suddenly. "I need to tell you something." Rochelle's heart jumped. "That sounds ominous." "It's not. Maybe. I don't know." He took her hands. "My mother called yesterday. First time since the trial." "What did she say?" "That she's disappointed, that I've disgraced the family, that my choices have been selfish." He paused. "And that she wants to meet you." "She wants to meet me?" "Why?" "Because despite everything, I'm still her son, and you're important to me. She doesn't approve, probably won't for a long time, but she's willing to try." Rochelle processed this. Meeting his mother, facing prejudice and judgment head-on, it terrified her. But she thought about what they'd already survived, trials and family wars, and every complication in between. "Okay," she said. "I'll meet her. It won't be easy. She'll say hurtful things, probably make assumptions about why we're together." "I know. But I'm not fragile, Dae-hyun. And if she matters to you, I'll try." He pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." They stood there as the sun set over the ocean. Two people who'd chosen each other, despite every logical reason not to. And somehow, that made it more real. Love didn't solve everything. Dae-hyun's relationship with his family remained complicated. Money was tight while they built their businesses. Rochelle still faced stares and assumptions as a black woman dating a Korean man. Some days were harder than others, filled with doubt and stress and the lingering trauma of what they'd been through. But there were also good days. Days when work went well and they cooked dinner together in her tiny kitchen. Days when Min-seo stopped by with gossip and laughter. Days where they simply existed together, reading on the couch or walking on the beach, comfortable in silence. It wasn't the fairy tale ending Rochelle had stopped believing in years ago. It was better, more real, earned through pain and choice, and stubborn determination to build something good from complicated pieces. 3 months after opening his business, Dae-hyun came home with a small box. Rochelle looked at it suspiciously. "If that's a ring, the answer is not yet," he laughed. "It's not a ring. Open it." Inside was a key. She looked at him questioningly. "To my apartment," he explained. "I know we said we'd take things slow, but we're together all the time anyway. And I want you to have space there. Your books, your things. A place that's ours. That's a big step. We've survived trials and family wars. I think we can handle shared closet space." She smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. "Okay, but I'm taking the bigger closet. Obviously." It was a small moment, insignificant in the scope of everything they'd been through. But it mattered, this quiet building of a life together, one decision at a time. That night, lying in bed in what was now their apartment, Rochelle thought about the text from her mother that had started everything. The set-up date she'd tried to sabotage, the man who'd shown up looking worse than her on purpose, how all of it had led here, to this messy, complicated, real thing they'd built. "Regret it?" Dae-hyun asked quietly, reading her mind like he often did. "Not even a little bit. Not even during the trial. Especially not during the trial. That's when I knew for sure." "Knew what?" "That you were worth fighting for. That we were worth fighting for." He kissed her softly. "I love you. Even when it's hard." "Especially when it's hard," she corrected. Because easy love didn't mean much, but choosing someone through trials and family wars and every complication life threw at you, that meant everything. They'd fought for this, for each other, for the freedom to build something honest and real, and they'd keep fighting one day at a time, together. Would you have stayed through everything they faced, or protected yourself first? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe, because the next story will shock you.